According to Nietzsche, all great thoughts are conceived while walking. How does walking consistently change your life? How does it affect our well-being, fitness, and lifestyle? And how does it compare to other forms of exercise like going on runs or lifting weights? These are the questions I sought to answer in October when I walked 10,000 steps every single day. Here's some proof from my step tracking app. This app starts a new day exactly at midnight and doesn't let you add steps afterward, so these results are real. Hi there, I'm Nivy, and I do a different monthly challenge every month because I like experimenting with my life. And I'm going to share these experiences with you so that you can decide whether you want to try these challenges and what you might want to do differently. Let's get started. Walktober is a 1-month walking campaign that starts every year on October 1st. The goal doesn't have to be 10,000 steps, it's more about walking more in general, but I wanted to truly challenge myself. According to a 2017 study that collected data from over 700,000 people around the world, Canadians on average walk only a mere 4,819 steps per day. The United States is similar at 4,774 steps per day. Let me put that into perspective for you. If you walked 5,000 steps, that would be around 45 minutes of walking. In one go, that might seem like a lot, but remember that this amount is spread throughout the day. On average, people are awake and active for around 15 hours a day. So this means the average adult in North America walks only 3 minutes out of every hour. You can imagine then that doubling how much walking we do can lead to a pretty big impact in our life. Also, here's a fun fact. Walking any distance burns the same amount of calories as running that same distance. Walking is just lower intensity for a longer time, while running is high intensity for a shorter time. So if running 6 kilometers every day sounds terrible to you, maybe you should consider walking 6 kilometers instead. It's still tiring, but it's a lot more doable for most people. Okay, the first thing I noticed was that here in Canada, our cities are not really built for walking. Yes, I could walk to the nearest grocery store and Tim Hortons and back, but I couldn't really meaningfully get anywhere if my trip was limited to 10,000 steps. If you live in a well-designed city like New York or maybe Toronto, I bet you'd have an easier time incorporating 10,000 steps naturally throughout your day. For example, you could walk to work, walk to the grocery store, and then walk to a friend's house. But if you don't live in a city like that, you're going to have to be strategic about where and when you walk. For example, on a rainy day, I would drive to the mall and then walk around the mall again and again. The second thing I noticed was growing to enjoy things that I used to think were inefficient. For example, I would walk all the way to the store to buy 1 tube of toothpaste and nothing else. And I'd feel amazing for it because it was my chance to get in my steps for the day. Same deal with running errands. I think we tend to want to have everything nearby so it can save us the trip, but we should recognize that we don't actually want to save the trip. The trip is good for your health, but what we want to save is time. And the time that you spend walking now might be saved exercising later. Here are some small things you can do to get your steps in that I also did during Walktober. 1. Park far away from the store so you have to walk all the way across the parking lot. 2. Get off the bus early and walk the rest of the way. 3. When you go shopping, take the longest possible route to get to what you're looking for. For example, if you're looking for cereal in aisle 9, go through aisles 1 to 8 too. 4. Spend more time standing up than sitting down, because if you're already standing up, it's a lot more natural to walk around. Just like the quote from the beginning of this video, I got to spend a lot of time thinking. Of course, I put on music and I listened to podcasts, but for most of the time, my mind was just wandering. In today's society, where screens are everywhere and always fighting for our attention, it's really easy to experience dopamine overload, but my walks around the neighborhood were boring, and boring is necessary. For an hour a day, I got to think about my goals and what I was putting effort into. I got to reflect on my relationships and interactions with people. Sometimes my mind wandered for new ideas for projects, and sometimes my mind would come to questions about things I was curious about. I can't quantify the impact of doing more thinking for a month, but it felt nice to have that time to connect with myself every day. It felt like slowing down and not being allowed to ignore anything. Every time I do a challenge, there's always one unexpected benefit that comes out of it, and it's usually completely unrelated to the goal of the challenge. This month, by spending 1 hour every day walking, I discovered that I really enjoy phone calls. So, like many Gen Z, I hated the phone and I always preferred to text. But you can't text while walking safely anyway. And so once I tried to call my friend, and we only chatted for maybe 15 minutes, but it felt as personal as a 1 hour conversation over text. At that point, I still had 5,000 steps to go, so next I called my mom. I chatted with her, checked in, had a nice conversation, and then bam, I was done my 10,000 steps. So every day after that, I would call at least one person during my walks. My family really appreciated it, and my friends were surprised at first, but they got used to it pretty fast. This is basically the idea of habit stacking. Habit stacking, as explained by James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, is when you identify a current habit you already do each day and then stack your new behavior on top. This works because our brain has a strong network of neurons for each of our current habits, like brushing our teeth or driving. So if we make our current habit act as the cue for our new habit, it's much more likely that we'll do it. So I began to adopt the habit that once I start walking, I'll call someone I care about and I'll ask how they are. Maybe you'll choose that when you go on your walk, you'll listen to a chapter of an audiobook. Maybe you'll choose that once you start your walk, you'll decide what you want to make for food the next day. If you're an artist, maybe every day during your walk, you'll try to come up with lyrics for a new song. Walktober is an excellent monthly challenge for you to stack other challenges on top of. Finally, my biggest piece of advice here is to be consistent no matter what. Just like with the other monthly challenges I've talked about, you have to convince yourself that you are going to walk 10,000 steps no matter what. Your only choice is whether you do it now or later. And at the beginning of the month, sometimes I would choose later, and then at 11:30 p.m., I would be speed walking around my bedroom trying to reach 10,000 steps because I couldn't go outside for a walk at 11:30 p.m. at night. Do that a few times and you'll decide it's way more pleasant to go on a nice leisurely daytime walk. That's all for me, and I'm definitely doing Walktober again in 2024. If you're interested in monthly challenges, feel free to subscribe. And if you're thinking of doing this challenge, please leave a comment below so I can cheer you on. See you next time.